So we're going to do the same thing that we just did in Photoshop and Lightroom. We're going to use the same photo in Snapseed on a cell phone to make the same adjustments, to make the same modifications in terms of tonal value and exposure that we did before. So I have an Android phone here, and I'm going to open up Snapseed, which is a Google app that's freely available. You can use it on iOS, I believe, as well. So we're going to open that, and we're going to bring in the same photo that we had before, and showing the same issues of the shadow being on the front of the face and the body, and the exposure essentially being a little problematic. On the right side of the app, you can see it says portrait, smooth, pop, accentuate, all these kind of recipe approaches to adjusting a photo, kind of a one-stop shopping here. You can just hit on one of these and it'll make an adjustment, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go the hard route and do it ourselves. So I'm going to hit on the pencil icon here, and that brings up all the tools. And the first one we're going to do is the first one in the top left corner here that says Tune Image. And it shows the icon as a series of sliders at the middle on the bottom here. So I'm going to hit on that, and it brings up brightness, contrast, saturation, ambience, highlights, shadows, etc. So just like we did before, I'm going to start with the shadows. And you can see it says shadows up at the top, and by swiping left or right, anywhere on the image, doesn't matter, you'll see a blue progress line at the top that'll show how much, just give an indication of the intensity of what we're doing. So if I go all the way to the left, it's darkening the shadows the maximum amount. If I go all the way to the right, it's lightening the shadows the maximum amount, neither of which I really want. We're not going to have the same thing that we had in Photoshop where it showed, gave you a warning of when the blacks were getting completely blocked up. We're going to have to do it just visually. So I'm going to do a little bit at a time here. Remember, you can always go back in and do more if you want. So it's always best to go a little bit at a time, and then if it's not enough, just go back in and make further adjustments. So I'm going to open up the shadows a little bit. I don't know, it looks like about a plus 15, 16. That seems to be okay. Maybe we could go even a little bit more. Let's go plus 22. So that's our shadows. So I'm going to go back to the slider icon at the bottom and hit on highlights. And I can do the same thing. Swiping all the way to the right raises the highlights or lightens them as much as possible. Sliding to the left darkens the highlights, neither of which I really want. So I want to highlight, want to brighten the highlights a little bit, but obviously just like before, I don't want to lose detail. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit, trying to judge it on the phone here by looking at it when I'm losing some detail. It looks like around a plus 10 or so. So we'll leave it at that. So we still have a shadow over the face. Not much has really happened with that, but let's hit our slider at the slider icon at the bottom, and let's go up to brightness. And again, we can slide left or right on this. And I'm going to slide right a little bit to brighten up the whole image. And I'm most concerned about the face. I'm really willing to let other parts of the image go if I can get the face right, because that's the most important part of the image here. But I don't want blown out highlights on the baby's forehead or the cheek or the nose either, for that matter. So let's just bring it up, I don't know, about a 15 or so. And we've got a little bit of improvement here. So we can hit the checkbox to accept this. And then we can go back to the tool menu, hitting the pencil. And even in this application, I can go in and create masks somewhat the same way as we did in Photoshop. They're not quite as fine-tuned, and I can't really adjust the size of them as easily, but it still gives us a lot of capability to do targeted adjustments on the image. So if you look at the tools here and go to the third row down, the first one on that row is selective. I'm going to hit on that. and you see it's got an icon at the bottom, a blue plus sign with a circle around it. And I'm going to go with my finger and just put it over the eye and just locate it. It comes up with a magnifying glass that'll gives you the ability to fine tune where the mask goes. So I'm going to put it right over the eye, and you see it says brightness at the top. So I can swipe left or right, and it's going to be sort of similar to what we had before, although it does affect a somewhat wider area. So you got to be a little more careful with this. But I'm going to increase the brightness by, I don't know, let's go by about 20 or so. And then hit the plus icon again at the bottom to get it blue. And I'm going to go over the other eye and target that one and do the same thing. I'm going to brighten that eye. That one, I'll probably go a little bit less because there's some white, lighter areas right around that, and I don't want those to get blown out. And then we'll do, again, hit the plus sign, get it blue, and put it over the mouth. And do the same thing, brighten that up a little bit. And you can see it definitely brightens it, and it sort of spills over onto the shirt, which is okay, because that can use a little brightening anyway. So we've done a similar thing to what we did before in Photoshop, where we did some targeted adjustments that for the most part leave the rest of the image untouched. So we can accept this. I can hit the check mark, and you can see we've definitely have improved the image, but we could always go back in and make further adjustments if we want. But this certainly shows the capability of what's possible with an app like this, and it's really pretty remarkable that you can just do this on your cell phone.